Maya Williams had always believed she was ordinary. A quiet 17-year-old girl living in the small town of Athens, Georgia, she preferred books over parties, silence over confrontation, and routine over surprises. She wasn't particularly popular, nor did she want to be. Most days she drifted through school like a ghost, unseen, untouched, and mostly unbothered. Home was a modest one-story house at the edge of town. Her mother, Diane, worked double shifts at the diner to keep things afloat. Her older brother, Jacob, had been in a wheelchair since the accident 2 years ago. The details were never discussed. They hung in the air like a silent agreement of avoidance. Maya loved Jacob more than anyone in the world, and their unspoken bond was built on shared music playlists, late-night talks, and the gentle squeeze of his hand when words weren't enough. That morning started like any other. Maya brushed her straight auburn hair into a low ponytail, pulled on her worn-out hoodie, and double-checked Jacob's breakfast tray. With a soft goodbye to her mother and a wave to Jacob, she headed out the door. Athens High sat nestled among pine trees, the American flag out front fluttering in a slow southern breeze. The school was a reflection of the town, traditional, conservative, and unchanging. Unspoken rules dictated everything from where you sat in the cafeteria to who got picked first in gym class. And if you were different, well, you learned to shrink yourself, to disappear. As Maya approached the school entrance, the familiar chatter of students filled the air, but something felt off. A tense silence rippled through the crowd gathered near the flagpole. Maya slowed, her steps, her gaze drawn to the center of the commotion. Brittany Moore stood there alone. Brittany was new, a transfer from Atlanta. A black girl with braids that framed her proud, defiant face, she walked the halls with a confidence that unsettled people. She didn't bow her head. She didn't apologize for existing. And today, she was the target. 3 boys surrounded her. Isolation to Wes Tanner, Jason Kirk, and Mark Vance, all sons of local power. One the sheriff's kid, one the town lawyer's nephew, and one whose family owned half the hardware stores in Clark County. They laughed loudly, too loudly, as Wes mimicked Brittany's accent in an exaggerated drawl. "What you doing here, ATL girl? Lost on your way to the ghetto?" Jason chimed in with a fake beatbox, while Mark pretended to duck as if Brittany were going to swing. Students around them chuckled, some nervously, others gleefully. Maya froze. Her heart thudded in her chest, a dull, rhythmic ache. She knew the rules. Don't get involved. Keep your head down. It's not your business. But then, Brittany looked at her. Their eyes met, and in that brief connection, Maya felt something electric and painful pass between them. Brittany wasn't crying, she wasn't begging, but her eyes asked a question that pierced through Maya's carefully built shell. Will anyone say something? Will anyone care enough to not look away? The moment snapped like a twig underfoot. Maya looked down, her feet rooted in place, and just like that the bell rang. The crowd dispersed, the boys swaggered off, satisfied. Brittany turned, backpack slung over her shoulder, and walked toward the school without a word. Maya stood there for a beat longer, ashamed of her silence. Her skin prickled with a mix of guilt and confusion. She wanted to be invisible, but more than that, she didn't want to be a coward. Inside, the hallways buzzed with the start of the school day, but for Maya everything felt muffled. She couldn't stop thinking about Brittany, about how brave she was just to show up, about how cruel people could be for no reason at all, and about how she had done nothing. In first period English, Mrs. Keller droned on about "to kill a mockingbird," irony practically dripping from the lesson as the class discussed standing up for what's right. Maya scribbled half-hearted notes, her eyes occasionally drifting to Brittany, who sat 2 rows ahead, her shoulders straight, her hands still. Maya thought about her mother's warning, the same one she'd heard her whole life. People like us survive by keeping our heads down. Don't stir trouble that doesn't knock on your door. But what if trouble knocked on someone else's door right in front of you? By lunch, the moment had replayed in Maya's head 100 times. She walked past the outdoor benches and into the cafeteria, scanning the room instinctively. Brittany sat alone at the far end, picking at her food, headphones in. Maya chose a seat in the corner, away from her usual spot. She couldn't bring herself to sit next to Brittany, not yet. But she also couldn't join the table of girls she normally shared jokes with. Not after what she didn't do. As the day ended and Maya walked home, her steps were slower than usual. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the pavement, and the air felt thick with unsaid words. She passed the rusted swing set where she and Jacob used to play, and for the first time in a long time she wished he could talk to her, really talk. That night, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her journal sat unopened on the nightstand. Her phone buzzed with notifications she ignored. One image burned behind her eyes. Brittany's gaze, unwavering, asking without asking, "Will you care enough not to look away?" Tomorrow, Maya didn't know what she would do. But she knew she couldn't unsee what she had seen, and maybe, just maybe, that was where something new could begin. Maya didn't sleep well. The image of Brittany standing alone at the flagpole haunted her dreams. When morning light bled through her curtains, she lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling, replaying yesterday's moment of silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that rotted inside you. At breakfast, Jacob noticed her distracted expression. "You good?" he asked, his voice soft but pointed. Maya hesitated, then shrugged. "Just tired." He didn't press, but his eyes lingered. He always saw more than he let on. The school felt colder that day, though the Georgia sun was out, in full force. As she walked through the main hallway, she could feel it, tension heavy in the air. Whispers bounced off lockers like smoke with no source. Someone had posted a clip of the incident at the flagpole, a video, short, grainy, but clear enough. Maya caught a glimpse on someone's phone. The boys' laughter, Brittany's silence, her stillness, and the sea of watching faces. No one had stepped in. Now everyone was talking. Some were outraged, others amused. A few pretended it didn't matter. By third period, the school had already taken action, at least on the surface. Principal Hunt sent out a bland, carefully worded email about student conduct and maintaining a respectful environment. It didn't mention names, it didn't take sides, but it said just enough to get the school board off his back. In English class, Brittany wasn't there. Mrs. Keller looked uneasy as she handed out copies of Mice and Men. "We'll continue discussing the themes of isolation today," she said, eyes quickly scanning the room. Maya felt her stomach knot. Isolation. The word echoed too loud in her mind. When the bell rang, Maya gathered her books slower than usual. She noticed a few students glancing at her, just quick flicks of the eyes like they knew she'd been there yesterday, knew she had seen everything. Maybe they were thinking the same thing she was. "Why didn't you say anything?" By lunchtime, the gossip had changed tone. Now it wasn't just about the boys, it was about Brittany. "She's too sensitive," someone said. "She's just looking for attention." This is why people don't like outsiders. Maya sat at the edge of the courtyard, her tray untouched. Her appetite had disappeared. She spotted Claire Hastings a few tables over, whispering to another girl while watching Maya. Maya looked away, her hands clenched in her lap. She knew Claire. They'd been in the same math group freshman year. Claire had always played both sides. Friendly when it was convenient, mean when it wasn't. The whispers stung worse than outright insults. They made you question yourself. Were you overreacting? Was it really that bad? Maya remembered Brittany's face. Yes, it was. After school, Maya didn't go straight home. She wandered, past the playground where kids laughed without worry, past the baseball field, where the team practiced under the lowering sun. Finally, she found herself in front of the public library. She hadn't planned it. Her feet had simply carried her there. Inside, the quiet was immediate and soothing. She drifted toward the back, past the fiction shelves, to the corner where she and Jacob used to read comics together. She sat down, knees pulled to her chest, heart still too full. She thought of writing in her journal, but the words felt too messy, too much. Then footsteps. Maya looked up. Brittany. She stood a few feet away, holding a copy of Their Eyes Were Watching God. Her eyes met Maya's, calm, unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Brittany sat down across from her. "You were there," Brittany said. Maya nodded. "And you didn't say anything. Maya's throat tightened. I know. Another pause. I'm sorry, Maya said quietly. I wanted to. I froze. Brittany studied her, eyes sharp, but not cruel. It's not just about you. I know, Maya whispered again. But I was scared. That doesn't make it okay. I didn't know what to do. Brittany didn't reply right away. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms, the book resting on her lap. You think I wasn't scared, she said finally. I've dealt with this my whole life. Every time I walk into a room, I'm already deciding what I'm going to ignore that day. Every joke, every look, every little side comment that no one else hears, but I do. Maya felt the weight of every word. I'm sorry, she repeated. Really. For the first time, Brittany's expression softened. Just a little. I don't need pity, she said. I need people to stop being quiet. I won't be quiet next time, Maya said. It came out shakier than she intended, but it was honest. Brittany looked at her for a long time, then she gave a single small nod. We'll see. They sat in silence again, this time less heavy, more real. Maya finally found her voice again. That book's good, she said, nodding toward Brittany's novel. Brittany smiled faintly. I know. Later that night, Maya sat at her desk, flipping through her journal. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe more whispers, maybe worse. But something had shifted. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. The next day, Maya walked into the cafeteria feeling like her skin was made of glass. Every voice felt louder, every glance more loaded. She clutched her tray tighter than usual, chicken nuggets, green beans, and a chocolate milk she had no intention of drinking. She scanned the room. There, near the center, sat Brittany. Alone. The entire cafeteria was split down in visible lines now. People didn't say it out loud, but Maya could feel it. Some kids were still pretending nothing happened. Others were whispering more venom, this time with caution. And then there were a few, just a few, who looked unsettled. Like maybe something inside them had started to shift. Maya's feet felt heavy, but she didn't let herself turn. She crossed the cafeteria, her tray wobbling in her hands, and walked straight toward Brittany's table. Is this seat taken? She asked. Brittany looked up. Her face didn't show surprise, only curiosity. No, she said quietly. Maya sat. It was awkward at first. Neither of them touched their food. Brittany flipped open a book, different from yesterday's, but didn't. Read it. Maya kept glancing at the table next to them, where the junior boys were howling at some meme. It was like nothing had changed for them, but something had. That was obvious when Logan Price walked in. He strutted in late, as usual, laughing with Marcus and Drew, the same trio from the flagpole incident. The video had gone viral, at least among their peers, and Logan had soaked in the attention like it was a reward until now. As Logan made his way past Brittany's table, he slowed. His eyes flicked to Maya, then Brittany. Something in his grin faltered. Maya met his stare. What? He smirked. Didn't know we were saving seats for the drama club. Brittany didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on her tray. But Maya stood. She didn't plan to. Her body just moved. You think you're funny, she said, loud enough for the nearby tables to quiet. Logan raised an eyebrow. Relax. Just making a joke. Like the one at the flagpole? Maya asked. That was hilarious, right? Some students turned, heads tilted toward the confrontation. Logan laughed, but it sounded thinner now. Oh, come on. No one got hurt. It was a prank. Lighten up. Maya took a step closer. How you embarrassed her in front of the whole school. You mocked her silence on a day about remembrance. And you laughed while people watched. That's not a prank. That's cruelty. The room stilled. Even Marcus and Drew looked uneasy. Logan's smirk wavered. You're being dramatic. No, Maya said, her voice calm but firm. I'm being decent. A beat passed. Then another. Then Claire Hastings stood up from her table across the room. Her voice, clear and sharp, cut through the silence. She's right. Everyone turned. Claire had her phone in hand. I rewatched the video last night. It wasn't just a joke, it was mean, and people are talking about it like it's normal. But it's not. Logan scoffed. You all seriously gonna act like... You've never laughed at something edgy? Maya turned to Claire, surprised. They hadn't spoken since middle school, but Claire nodded at her, a look of something like solidarity in her eyes. Then another voice, Anthony from the robotics club, added in, I thought it was funny at first, but I don't anymore. I keep thinking, what if that was me? Voices rippled. Logan stood frozen, unsure whether to fight or retreat. For the first time, the balance had shifted. His power didn't hold. Principal Hunt entered the cafeteria at that moment, probably just doing rounds. But the energy in the room stopped him short. His eyes scanned the tension, the crowd, the confrontation. He frowned. Is there a problem? No, Juan answered. Logan turned and walked away without another word. Hunt narrowed his eyes at the retreating figure, then looked at Maya. Miss Patel? Maya took a breath. No problem. Just a conversation. Hunt gave a skeptical look, but he moved on. Maya sat back down, her hands trembling slightly. She didn't touch her food, and neither did Brittany, but something had cracked open. I didn't ask you to fight my battles, Brittany said quietly. Maya nodded. I didn't do it for you, I did it because it was the right thing. Brittany looked at her for a long moment, then gave a tiny nod of approval. You're late, Jacob said when Maya got to class later. She sank into her seat, exhaling. Lunch took a turn. He grinned. I saw the tail end. You broke the internet. Maya rolled her eyes. It wasn't about that. I know, Jacob said, but still, people saw. You made them see. That afternoon, the school buzzed in a different way. The video had new meaning now. Comments shifted. People who had stayed quiet started questioning themselves, and some, like Claire, began speaking. By the time Maya got home, her inbox had a message from Mrs. Keller. Subject: proud of you. The message was short. Heard what you said in the lunchroom. Thank you. For standing up, for speaking when others stayed silent. Maya closed the email and looked out her window. The sky was soft with the light of early evening. She saw her reflection in the glass, still her but changed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But today, for once, silence had not won. The announcement came just before third period. Maya had barely settled into her chemistry seat when the crackling voice over the intercom called her name. Maya Patel, please report to the principal's office. Whispers erupted around the room like popcorn in a microwave. Maya felt every pair of eyes land on her, each stare laced with curiosity, judgment, or awe. She slid her notebook into her backpack and stood, trying not to let her legs shake. Mr. Thornton gave her a sympathetic glance but said nothing. As Maya walked the long hall to the front office, she ran through every possibility. Had Logan complained? Was she in trouble? Or worse, was Brittany? She knocked gently and pushed open the office door. Principal Hunt sat behind his massive desk, hands folded, face unreadable. Come in, Maya, he said. Close the door behind you. She obeyed. You know why you're here? He asked. Not really, Maya replied carefully. Hunt nodded slowly. We've had quite a few students come forward about what happened yesterday in the cafeteria, and before that at the flagpole. I've seen the videos, both of them. Maya waited. I want you to know, he continued, I don't condone what Logan and the others did. That behavior violates our code of conduct, but I also want to talk about your part in what happened. Maya's chest tightened. Did I do something wrong? You raised your voice in the cafeteria. You confronted another student publicly. It created a disruption. Maya felt heat rise in her face. I didn't plan it. He said something, and I couldn't stay quiet. I understand, and I'm not saying you were wrong to feel upset, but we also have to be careful about escalation. Students looking up to you might take that as permission to challenge one another in ways that aren't constructive. So, what should I have done? Maya asked, genuinely confused. Come to an adult. Report the incident. Let us handle. But you didn't handle it, she said, her voice edging with frustration. No one did until kids started filming. Hunt leaned back. For a moment, he seemed more human, tired, maybe even conflicted. You're right, he admitted. Sometimes we're slow to act, and sometimes it takes students like you to remind us what we're missing. Maya blinked. So I'm not in trouble? No, he said, smiling faintly. Not today. But I am asking something of you. What's that? I'd like you to join a new student committee I'm forming. It's going to review issues like bullying, inclusion, and school culture. I want your voice in that room. Maya wasn't sure what to say. I'll think about it. Please, do, and Maya? She looked up. I'm proud of what you did, even if I have to say it carefully. Maya nodded and left the office feeling like the air had shifted again. Not everything was solved, but for once an adult had listened and admitted fault. Later, that day as she walked past the courtyard, she spotted Brittany sitting alone again, this time eating quietly under the shade of the old oak tree. Maya hesitated, then approached. Mind if I join you? Brittany shrugged. Free country. Maya, that? They ate in silence for a minute before Brittany spoke. You think that committee thing will actually change anything? Maya poked at her sandwich. Maybe not, but if I don't say yes, then the people who don't care will be the only ones talking. Brittany nodded thoughtfully. Logan got a 2-day suspension. Maya looked up. Good. I don't want revenge, Brittany said, but I do want it to stop. I want people to think twice before turning me into a joke. They will, Maya said. Some already have. Brittany looked skeptical, but didn't argue. Her eyes wandered to a group of students walking by, Claire among them. Claire gave a small nod to Brittany, just a flicker of acknowledgement, but it was something. It's weird, Brittany said after a while. Being talked about. Being seen. You were always seen, Maya said. Just not understood. Brittany gave her a sideways glance. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. They shared a small, quiet laugh. Not warm yet, but real. That evening, Maya told her parents everything. At first, they were worried. You confronted someone in public? Her father asked. Are you safe? It wasn't a fight, Maya said. I spoke up, that's all. Her mom, always the quiet one, reached over and held her hand. I'm proud of you, Beta. Your voice is powerful. Use it wisely. Maya smiled. That's what I'm trying to do. Up in her room, she opened her laptop and typed a new message. 2. Principal Hunt. Subject. Committee. Hi, Principal Hunt. I've thought about your offer. I'd like to be part of the committee. I can't promise I'll stay quiet if something's wrong, but I will try to make my words count. Maya, she hit send. As the screen glowed in the quiet of her room, Maya realized something. This wasn't over. Speaking up once wasn't enough. Change took repetition, persistence, more voices, but now she had allies, Brittany, Claire, Jacob, even hesitant ones. She looked out her window again, where the last hint of daylight clung to the rooftops. It was going to be a long year, but for the first time she felt ready. In the days following the principals' meeting, the atmosphere at Jefferson High felt charged in a new way, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. Maya noticed it the moment she walked through the front doors Monday morning. Groups of students whispered in corners, eyes darting nervously. The videos of the cafeteria confrontation had gone viral within the school and beyond, shared dozens, 12 times on social media platforms. The hashtag #TrangySpeakUpJefferson was trending among students, teachers, and even some local news outlets. Maya's phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages flooded in, some supportive, some hostile. Friends she didn't expect to hear from sent words of encouragement. Others, particularly those aligned with Logan's clique, responded with thinly veiled threats and sneers. The line between friend and foe blurred overnight. At lunch, the cafeteria felt like a battlefield. The tables were no longer just places to eat. They had become symbolic territory. Students who had once avoided conflict now took sides openly. Maya spotted Claire sitting with a group of quiet supporters, her usual confident posture replaced by a wary vigilance. Brittany, surprisingly, was eating with Jacob and some others who had once distanced themselves from her. The fragile alliances Maya had witnessed forming were beginning to take root, yet the school's official response remained muted. Principal Hunt's promise of a committee was still in motion, but the wheels turned slowly. Teachers hesitated to address the issue. In classrooms, unsure how to navigate the tense social landscape. Rumors swirled that some faculty members felt the whole controversy was a distraction from academics and discipline, while others quietly supported the students pushing for change. The ripple effect of Maya's courage was spreading, but it wasn't without backlash. One afternoon, as Maya left her math class, she found a folded note slipped into her locker. The handwriting was jagged, urgent. "Stop stirring the pot or you'll regret it. This isn't a game." Her heart pounded as she read the words again. Fear gnawed at her, but anger burned brighter. She crumpled the note but tucked it into her backpack as evidence. This was no longer just about her. It was about every student who had been silenced for too long. That evening, Maya sat with her parents at the kitchen table, the note spread out before them. Her father's expression hardened as he read. "We need to report this," he said firmly. Maya shook her head. "I'm not backing down. If I do, it's like saying this is okay." Her mother reached across the table, squeezing Maya's hand. "We're proud of you, Beta. Just be careful." The next day, Maya decided to take a different approach. Instead of waiting for the committee to form or for adults to act, she started organizing. She created an online group, a space where students could share their experiences without fear. She posted questions, polls, and resources about bullying and mental health. Slowly, members joined. Word spread quickly. One afternoon, Claire messaged Maya privately. "I want to help. I'm tired of watching this happen." Maya smiled at her screen. Allies were appearing in unexpected places. Meanwhile, Brittany was becoming more visible. Her quiet moments in the courtyard had turned into brief conversations with others. She started attending school events again, no longer hiding. The walls she had built around herself were cracking, but not everyone was ready to embrace change. Logan's group retaliated. They spread rumors, targeted students on social media, and disrupted meetings. The tension escalated, making it clear that the school was at a crossroads. Maya's parents grew concerned. Maya to slow down, to focus on her studies, but she couldn't. This was bigger than grades or graduation. It was about the future of Jefferson High. One evening, after a particularly rough day filled with whispered insults and social media attacks, Maya sat on her bed feeling the weight of it all. Doubt crept in. Was she making a difference or just stirring chaos? Was it worth it? Her phone buzzed. A message from Principal Hunt. "Meeting tomorrow. Need to discuss the committee and next steps. Your voice matters." Relief washed over her. She wasn't alone. The next day, the committee met for the first time. Students, teachers, and administrators gathered in a bright, sunlit room. The energy was tentative but hopeful. Maya spoke first, sharing stories and urging immediate action. Others followed, some hesitant, others passionate. The conversation was raw, honest, and sometimes uncomfortable. By the end of the meeting, a plan was in place. Awareness campaigns, peer support groups, and clearer reporting systems. Most importantly, the school committed to listening. As Maya left the room, she felt the ripple growing stronger. Change wouldn't come overnight, but the first stones had been thrown into the water. Outside, Brittany caught up to her. "You did good in there," she said quietly. Maya nodded. "We're just getting started." Together they walked back, into the school, ready to face whatever came next. The battle for respect, dignity, and understanding at Jefferson High was far from over, but now the ripple was becoming a wave. The day started like any other at Jefferson High, but the atmosphere was heavier. The recent confrontations and the ongoing tension between students had everyone on edge. Maya arrived early, her mind swirling with thoughts about the upcoming committee meetings and the growing divide within the school. As she made her way down the hallway toward her locker, she noticed a small gathering of students near Brittany's locker. Curiosity pulled her closer, and what she saw tightened a knot in her stomach. Brittany's locker had been vandalized. Bold, hateful words were scrawled across the metal door, words dripping with racial slurs and venom. The sight was shocking, yet in a town like Athens, Georgia, it wasn't entirely unexpected. The hateful graffiti spoke volumes about the resistance to change, about the undercurrents of prejudice that ran beneath the town's polished surface. Maya felt a surge of anger, but Brittany's reaction surprised her even more. Instead of lashing out or crying, Brittany quietly pulled a handful of brightly colored stickers from her backpack and began to cover the hateful words. Each sticker was carefully placed over the offensive language: flowers, smiley faces, empowering phrases like respect and unity. Her calm resilience was a stark contrast to the ugliness defacing her locker. Maya watched in awe. Brittany's silent act of defiance spoke louder than any words could. It was a message of strength and hope amidst hostility, an assertion that hate would not define her or the community they were trying to build. That moment changed something in Maya. It was as if she saw Brittany for the first time, not just as a friend or fellow student, but as a beacon of quiet courage. Inspired, Maya pulled out her own notebook and began jotting down her thoughts. Her journal had become her refuge, a place where she could pour out her emotions, frustrations, and hopes without fear of judgment. She wrote about the vandalism, about Brittany's strength, and about the growing movement at school. Writing helped her process the chaos around her, and in those pages she found clarity and resolve. The incident with Brittany's locker rippled through the school. Some students expressed sympathy, while others whispered in disapproval, refusing to acknowledge the deeper issues at play. Teachers were hesitant to bring it up in class, worried about stirring more conflict, but Maya felt the need to speak out. She approached Coach Redmond after school, sharing her concerns and the emotional toll the harassment was taking on her and Brittany. Coach listened intently, his usual stern demeanor softening. He had witnessed the school's struggles for years and admitted that silence had often been the easy way out. "It's time for us to stand up, Maya," he said. "Not just for Brittany, but for every student who's been pushed to the sidelines." With Coach's encouragement, Maya began organizing small meetings with other students who wanted to make a difference. They discussed ideas for raising awareness, supporting victims of bullying, and fostering a more inclusive environment. These gatherings became a safe space where voices long silenced could be heard, and where plans for real change started to take shape. Meanwhile, Brittany's quiet strength continued to inspire. Despite the daily challenges, she showed up to school with a steady resolve, refusing to be broken by the cruelty aimed at her. Her stickers on the locker became a symbol, a colorful defiance that brightened the gray hallways and reminded everyone that hope could bloom even in the darkest places. The school newspaper caught wind of the incident and decided to feature a story about Brittany's experience and the broader issues of discrimination at Jefferson High. Maya helped by sharing her journal entries, providing a personal perspective that resonated with many students. The article sparked conversations throughout the community, forcing some to confront uncomfortable truths. However, not everyone welcomed this spotlight. The group led by Logan ramped up their efforts to intimidate those involved in the movement. Maya received more threatening messages, and Brittany was called slurs in the hallways. The stakes were rising, and the path to change was proving to be far more difficult than Maya had imagined. Through it all, Maya's relationship with Brittany deepened. They spent evenings exchanging stories, dreams, and fears. Their bond became a source of strength for both, a reminder that they were not alone in their fight. Brittany confided in Maya about the pain of being constantly targeted, while Maya shared her own struggles with feeling invisible in her family and community. One afternoon, while sitting under the old oak tree near the school, Brittany handed Maya a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Brittany's mother, a woman Maya had yet to meet but already felt connected to through the stories shared. The note expressed gratitude for Maya's courage and kindness, and it included a small charm bracelet, an emblem of unity and friendship. Maya felt overwhelmed with emotion. The simple gift was more than a token. It was a lifeline, a bridge, between two worlds that had long been kept apart. She promised Brittany she would wear the bracelet every day as a reminder of their shared commitment to change. As the school year pressed on, the vandalism incident remained a pivotal moment. It exposed the deep wounds within Jefferson High, but also illuminated the possibility of healing. Maya's journal entries, filled with reflections on justice, resilience, and hope, became the foundation for a larger project she was beginning to envision. A collection of stories from students who had been marginalized, a testament to their strength and a call for unity. The mark on Brittany's locker was more than graffiti. It was a symbol of the battle being fought in the hearts and minds of everyone at Jefferson High. And through it all, Maya knew one thing with certainty. Silence was no longer an option. Together, they would rewrite the story of their school, one brave step at a time. The vandalism of Brittany's locker marked a turning point in Jefferson High, but it also exposed a deeper fissure within the town of Athens itself. As news of the hateful graffiti spread beyond the school walls, the community found itself grappling with questions it had long avoided. The idyllic image of a small southern town, proud of its heritage and traditions, was now under scrutiny. The divisions were no longer hidden beneath polite conversation. They were out in the open, raw and undeniable. At the town hall meeting called in the wake of the incident, tensions ran high. Residents packed the room, their faces reflecting a mixture of anger, fear, and uncertainty. Some argued that the vandalism was a wake-up call, a sign that Athens needed to confront its racial prejudices head-on. Others dismissed it as an isolated act, a few troublemakers stirring up unnecessary drama. Maya sat near the back, clutching her notebook tightly. She listened as voices from both sides clashed, their words echoing the arguments she had overheard in the school corridors. The mayor, a well-meaning but cautious man, urged calm and unity, but his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The room, fractured into factions, each unwilling to see beyond their own perspective. The local newspaper, the Athens Gazette, dedicated its front page to the story, framing it as a community crisis and asking whether Athens was ready for change. Editorials poured in from residents, some condemning the hateful act and others defending the town's traditions, claiming the younger generation was trying to rewrite history. The newspaper's offices received both support and threats, revealing just how deeply the conflict had penetrated. In school, the divide mirrored what was happening in the town. Some students rallied behind Maya and Brittany, attending meetings and wearing pins that read, "Unity over hate." Others, emboldened by the backlash, intensified their harassment, targeting those who dared to speak out. The hallways became battlegrounds where words and glances held the power to wound as deeply as any physical attack. Maya found herself at the center of the storm. Teachers began to look at her differently, some with admiration, others with suspicion. She was invited to speak at assemblies, but also whispered about in the staff room. The pressure weighed heavily on her, but she refused to back down. She believed that silence would only allow the hatred to grow stronger. One evening, Maya's mother called. Their conversation was strained as her mother worried about the growing conflict and the dangers Maya faced. "You have to be careful," she urged. "Not everyone wants things to change. Sometimes standing up can put you in harm's way." Maya reassured her that she wasn't alone and that the movement was growing, but she felt the truth in her mother's words. Meanwhile, Brittany's family struggled with their own fears. Her mother, a proud woman with roots deeply planted in Athens, worried that the hostility might escalate beyond words. Yet she admired Brittany's courage and saw in Maya a kindred spirit fighting for a better future. The two families began to connect, their shared concerns forging a fragile alliance. Amid the turmoil, community leaders attempted to bridge the gap. Churches held interfaith gatherings focused on healing. Local activists organized forums on racial justice, and some business owners displayed signs supporting inclusion. But these efforts were met with mixed reactions, some welcoming the dialogue, others decrying it as forced and insincere. Maya attended one such forum, her heart heavy with hope and doubt. As she listened to stories of pain and resilience, she realized how complex the community's history was, how past wounds had been buried but never fully healed. The path to reconciliation would be long and difficult, requiring more than words. In school, the administration introduced sensitivity training and anti-bullying campaigns. Still, incidents of harassment persisted, sometimes escalating into threats and vandalism. Maya and Brittany leaned on each other, finding strength in their shared experiences and in the growing circle of friends who stood with them. One afternoon, Maya was approached by Mr. Thompson, the school counselor. He offered support and suggested she channel her feelings into a project, a documentary capturing the stories of students affected by discrimination. The idea ignited a spark within her. She began filming interviews, gathering footage that would later become a powerful testament to the realities many tried to ignore. The documentary project brought together students from diverse backgrounds. They shared their stories of exclusion, courage, and hope, breaking down barriers through honest conversation. The process was cathartic but also painful, exposing raw emotions and long-held fears. At the same time, the backlash intensified. Maya found her belongings vandalized, received threatening notes, and was followed home on more than one occasion. Yet each challenge only steeled her resolve. She refused to let fear silence her voice. Outside of school, the town's divisions played out in everyday life. Local businesses saw boycotts based on owners' perceived stances, friendships fractured, and neighbors grew wary of one another. The community's identity was in flux, caught between the pull of tradition and the push for progress. Amid the chaos, Maya's journal became her anchor. Writing late into the night, she poured out her fears and hopes, her doubts and dreams. The pages reflected not only the turmoil around her, but the deep desire for healing and understanding that she held on to despite everything. The chapter of Athens' story was far from over. The vandalism on Brittany's locker was a symptom of a larger struggle, a battle over the town's soul. As Maya looked ahead, she knew the fight for justice and unity would demand every ounce of courage and compassion the community could muster. But in that struggle, there was also the possibility of transformation, a chance to rebuild not just the school or the town, but the very idea of what it meant to be a community. Maya was determined to be part of that change, no matter the cost. Battement. Tension in Athens was palpable, thickening the air like humidity on a summer afternoon. After months of unrest, the community seemed on the verge of either breaking apart completely or coming together in a way that few had imagined possible. The vandalism incident, the town hall meetings, the school conflicts, all of it had brought buried wounds to the surface. Now it was clear that healing would require more than words. It would demand action. Maya woke early that Saturday morning, a restless energy coursing through her. Today was the day of the Community Unity Rally, a gathering planned by local activists, students, teachers, and some town leaders who had finally recognized that the cycle of hate and silence could no longer continue. Flyers had been posted all over Athens, inviting everyone to come out to the town square for a day of dialogue, music, and storytelling. The hope was to create a space where voices from all sides could be heard without fear. The morning sun had barely risen when Maya arrived at the square. The place was already buzzing with activity. Vendors set up tables with refreshments and literature about racial justice, while volunteers arranged chairs in a wide circle. Banners, with slogans like "Together we rise" and "Love over fear," fluttered in the breeze. Maya spotted Brittany helping a group of younger students make signs with colorful markers. Their faces, full of nervous excitement, reflected the fragile hope hanging in the air. Maya's heart swelled with pride and determination. This rally was not just an event. It was a symbol of everything they had fought for. For months, she had faced down threats, isolation, and doubt. But today, surrounded by a community that was beginning to confront its divisions openly, she felt the possibility of real change. The crowd grew steadily as the morning passed. Families, church groups, local business owners, and even some of the town officials arrived. People who had once avoided talking about race now found themselves sharing stories of pain and resilience. Some tears were shed, some anger still lingered. But more than anything, there was a willingness to listen. The rally began with a speech from the mayor. His voice trembled slightly as he acknowledged the mistakes of the past and expressed his commitment to supporting initiatives that fostered inclusion and respect. He spoke about the importance of education, dialogue, and standing united against hate. His words, though cautious, carried weight because they came from someone in a position of power willing to say the uncomfortable truths. Next came Maya. She stepped into the center of the circle, her palms sweaty, but her voice steady. She spoke of Brittany's experience, the pain of discrimination, and the courage it took for students to stand up despite fear. Maya shared her own journey, from feeling powerless and silenced to becoming an advocate for justice. Her words resonated deeply, drawing nods and quiet applause from the crowd. After Maya's speech, others took turns sharing. An elderly African-American man recounted the town's history of segregation and the slow, painful steps toward civil rights. A white teacher spoke about confronting her own unconscious biases and the challenges of creating an inclusive classroom. A group of students performed a spoken word piece about unity and hope. The raw honesty of these moments created a collective empathy that began to dissolve barriers. Brittany and Maya had spent weeks preparing a video documentary featuring interviews with students from different backgrounds. When it played, the square fell silent. Faces on the screen told stories of exclusion, resilience, and dreams for a better future. The film did not shy away from difficult truths, but it also celebrated the power of community and the strength found in connection. After the formal program, small groups formed to continue conversations. Maya joined one focused on strategies to improve school culture. Ideas flowed: peer mentoring programs, inclusive curriculum reforms, safe spaces for dialogue, and stronger support systems for victims of bullying. It was clear that while the rally was a milestone, the real work was just beginning. Throughout the day, Maya noticed some skeptics and those who still clung to old grudges. A few exchanged heated words, but the presence of mediators helped de-escalate tensions. Even those resistant to change could not ignore the growing momentum for reconciliation and reform. As the sun dipped toward evening, the rally concluded with a community pledge. Participants stood in a large circle, holding hands, and vowed to reject hate, embrace diversity, and build a future rooted in respect and understanding. The moment was solemn yet hopeful, a turning point for Athens. Maya left the square exhausted, but filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. Old prejudices did not vanish overnight. Some in the community would resist, and setbacks were inevitable. But today had proven that when people dared to face their fears and listen to one another, healing was possible. In the days that followed, momentum from the rally carried into tangible changes. The school board approved funding for diversity training and established a student-led advisory committee to address issues of equity and inclusion. Local businesses began offering internships and scholarships to underrepresented students. The mayor announced a plan to create a permanent community center dedicated to cultural exchange and dialogue. Maya and Brittany became spokespeople for these initiatives, speaking at schools, churches, and civic groups. They encountered both support and skepticism, but each conversation deepened their understanding of the complexities involved in dismantling systemic bias. One afternoon, Maya sat with her mother on their porch, reflecting on the journey so far. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears of pride and relief. "You've done something remarkable, Maya," she said softly. "You've given this town a chance to see itself clearly, and that's the hardest thing to do." Maya smiled, knowing her mother was right. The fight against hate was not just about condemning acts of vandalism or bullying. It was about awakening a community to its own potential for kindness, justice, and transformation. It was about reclaiming a shared humanity that had been obscured by fear and division. As night settled over Athens, Maya opened her journal and began to write. She recorded the day's events, the faces she had seen, and the hope that burned brighter than ever before. The chapter of pain and conflict was still unfolding, but now it included the possibility of redemption. In that moment, Maya understood. That change did not come from a single act or speech, but from countless small steps taken together. It came from the courage to stand up, to listen, and to believe that even the deepest wounds could heal with time and care. Athens was not yet whole, but for the first time in a long while, it was moving toward a future where all its children could belong, and that was a beginning worth fighting for. The weeks after the Unity rally brought a fragile calm to Athens, but beneath the surface, old tensions lingered, sometimes bubbling up unexpectedly. Progress was slow and uneven, as Maya and Brittany quickly discovered. While the rally had sparked hope, it had also awakened resistance from some corners of the town unwilling to change. The real test now was how the community would navigate the difficult path from awareness to lasting transformation. Maya spent her days balancing schoolwork, activism, and increasingly frequent meetings with the school administration and community leaders. The Student Advisory Committee formed after the rally was a promising start, but tensions ran high in those sessions. Some students wanted immediate, sweeping reforms, while others urged patience and caution. Maya often found herself mediating between passionate voices, trying to channel their energy toward constructive solutions. One afternoon, as Maya prepared for a presentation about implementing peer support programs, she received an unexpected message from the principal. The school board was facing backlash from some parents and local business owners who felt the recent changes threatened tradition and discipline. Rumors were spreading about budget cuts to extracurriculars in favor of social justice initiatives, fueling a backlash among families who felt alienated by the new direction. At the next community meeting, Maya felt the weight of the opposition firsthand. The room was crowded, and a tense atmosphere filled the air. Parents stood to voice concerns, some accusing the school of promoting division rather than unity. A few speakers dismissed the advisory committee's work as a distraction from academic priorities. Maya listened carefully, her heart heavy but resolute. She knew these voices represented a significant obstacle, but also an opportunity to bridge understanding. When it was her turn, Maya spoke calmly about the importance of inclusion and support for all students. She emphasized that the changes were not about political agendas, but about creating a safe environment where everyone could learn and thrive. She shared stories of students who felt isolated and hurt by ongoing discrimination, and how the new programs aim to give them a voice and a community. Some in the audience nodded, others remained skeptical, but Maya's courage sparked a ripple of thoughtful reflection. Outside the meeting, Brittany waited to talk with Maya. "It's harder than I thought," Brittany admitted quietly. "Some people just don't want to listen." Maya nodded. "Change is always hard, but giving up isn't an option." Over the next several weeks, Maya and Brittany pushed forward, organizing workshops, facilitating dialogues, and rallying student support. They partnered with local non-profits, specializing in diversity training and conflict resolution. Slowly, pockets of the school community began to embrace the new initiatives. Peer mentoring programs took root, and student leaders emerged who were passionate about fostering respect and understanding. However, the broader community's resistance still posed challenges. Some local businesses hesitated to sponsor events, wary of alienating customers. A few media outlets framed the changes as controversial, stirring debate that sometimes turned hostile on social media. Maya watched as misinformation spread, creating divisions even among families who had once seemed united. At home, the tension weighed on Maya's family life as well. Her mother supported her efforts, but worried about the toll the activism took on Maya's health and school performance. "You're carrying a lot on your shoulders," her mother reminded her gently one evening. "Don't forget to take care of yourself too." Maya appreciated her mother's concern, but felt a relentless drive that pushed her onward. She believed that giving up now would betray the courage of those who had already suffered and spoken out. She wrote in her journal late at night, capturing the contradictions, hope and despair, progress and setbacks that defined this phase of the struggle. One particularly difficult day, Maya was confronted by a group of students who challenged her efforts. They accused her of stirring trouble and dividing the school. The exchange was tense, words sharp and emotions raw. Maya stood her ground, listening carefully, then calmly explaining that her goal was to create understanding, not conflict. The conversation ended without resolution, but it was a reminder that transformation was a process, often uncomfortable and slow. Despite these challenges, Maya also found moments of profound connection and affirmation. A new friendship blossomed, with a student from a different background who shared her passion for social justice. Together, they organized a cultural exchange event, celebrating the diversity that made Athens unique. The event drew an enthusiastic crowd, bridging gaps and sparking conversations that felt genuine and hopeful. As winter approached, Maya reflected on the journey so far. The Unity Rally had been a beacon, but the real work was in the daily, often unseen efforts to change hearts and minds. Progress was no longer a simple story of good versus bad. It was a complicated dance of listening, learning, and sometimes disagreeing with respect. Maya realized that lasting change required patience and persistence, but also humility, the willingness to acknowledge mistakes, to learn from others, and to keep the dialogue open. She felt a growing maturity and strength within herself, shaped by the challenges she faced and the community she was helping to build. In the quiet moments before sleep, Maya often thought about Brittany, the students, and the adults who had dared to hope for something better. Their courage inspired her, fueling the belief that even a small town like Athens could become a place where everyone belonged. The road ahead was uncertain and steep, but for the first time in a long while, Maya saw a path forward, a path lit, not just by rallies and speeches, but by everyday acts of understanding, kindness, and courage. The turning point arrived unexpectedly, in a way that neither Maya nor Brittany could have predicted. It was a chilly Thursday afternoon, when a surprising development shook the foundation of the community's efforts and challenged everything they had been working toward. The tension that had quietly simmered beneath the surface suddenly erupted into the public eye, forcing everyone to confront the fragile state of progress. The catalyst was a viral video, a heated confrontation between two students captured during lunch break. The footage showed a verbal altercation escalating quickly, with harsh words and accusations flying back and forth. The conflict stemmed from a disagreement over the recent changes in the school policies, but the underlying issues were far deeper, old prejudices, mistrust, and the unresolved wounds of past conflicts. The video spread rapidly on social media, attracting attention far beyond the school walls. Maya saw the video for the first time on her phone during a break at school. Her stomach sank as she watched the argument unfold, recognizing some of the students involved. The scene was raw and painful, a stark reminder of how much work remained. The comment section beneath the video was filled with polarized opinions, some condemning the students involved, others blaming the school's new initiatives, and many expressing frustration and fear about the community's future. That evening, the school called an emergency assembly. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, parents, and community leaders. The air was heavy with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The principal stood on the stage, acknowledging the seriousness of the incident and emphasizing the need for honest dialogue and reflection. She spoke about the values the school aspired to uphold: respect, empathy, and inclusion, but also admitted the challenges they faced in making those values a reality. Maya listened intently, her mind racing. The incident was a painful setback, but she also saw it as an opportunity, a moment to bring the community together to address the underlying issues honestly and openly. She volunteered to help organize a series of facilitated discussions aimed at healing and understanding, hoping to turn conflict into a learning experience. The first session was tense. Students sat in small groups, sharing their perspectives cautiously. Some expressed anger and hurt over feeling misunderstood or marginalized. Others spoke about fear of change and loss of tradition. Maya noticed that the room was filled with raw emotions: pain, frustration, hope, and the tentative beginnings of empathy. The discussions were not easy. They sometimes sparked tears and heated exchanges, but gradually, a sense of connection began to emerge. Outside the school, the community's response was mixed. Some parents supported the dialogue efforts, attending town hall meetings and advocating for continued progress. Others remained skeptical, worried about what they saw as the erosion of established values. Local media outlets continued to report on the tensions, often emphasizing conflict rather than the ongoing efforts toward reconciliation. Maya and Brittany found themselves navigating a complex landscape where every action was scrutinized and sometimes misinterpreted. Amid the turmoil, Maya's relationship with Brittany deepened. They leaned on each other for strength and encouragement, sharing late-night conversations about their fears, hopes, and dreams for the future. Brittany, who had once been more reserved, grew increasingly confident in her role as an advocate and leader. Together they planned community events that celebrated cultural diversity and promoted mutual respect, seeking to build bridges where divisions had long existed. One of the most powerful moments came during a community art project that Maya helped coordinate. Students and residents collaborated to create a mural that depicted the town's history, struggles, and hopes. The mural became a living symbol of the community's journey, its colors vibrant, its images complex and layered. When the mural was unveiled, it drew a large crowd, many moved to tears. The event was covered by local news, shining a spotlight on the positive potential of unity and shared purpose. Despite these victories, challenges persisted. Maya often found herself exhausted, grappling with the emotional weight of the work and the slow pace of change. There were nights when doubt crept in, when the setbacks seemed overwhelming, but each time she reminded herself of the faces of those who believed in a better future. The students who had spoken courageously at meetings, the families who had opened their hearts, the neighbors who reached out across divides. The turning point also prompted reflection among the adults in the community. Several teachers and staff members sought training in cultural competency and conflict resolution. The school board allocated resources for counseling services and restorative justice programs. Local leaders engaged in conversations with activists and students, recognizing the importance of listening and responding to the community's diverse needs. Maya's parents, once uncertain about the upheaval, began to understand the significance of the movement. They saw the impact it had on their daughter and the positive changes in the school environment. Their support became a steady source of encouragement, reminding Maya that she was not alone in this journey. As winter melted into spring, the town of Athens began to show signs of transformation. The wounds of conflict had not fully healed, but there was a growing commitment to face the past honestly and to build a future based on respect and shared humanity. The journey was far from over, but the turning point marked a moment when hope and determination outweighed fear and division. For Maya, this chapter in her life was a powerful lesson in resilience and leadership. She learned that change was rarely linear or easy, but that it was possible through courage, empathy, and community. The challenges ahead would demand more strength and wisdom, but she felt ready to meet them. The turning point was not the end of the struggle. It was the beginning of a deeper, more meaningful path. And with each step forward, Maya knew that the dream of a united Athens was closer than ever before. The momentum that had begun to build in Athens after the turning point grew stronger, spreading far beyond the school walls and the immediate community. What started as a local effort to heal divisions and foster understanding began to ripple outward, inspiring neighboring towns and even drawing attention at the state level. This unexpected expansion brought both new opportunities and fresh challenges, testing the resolve of Maya and those around her. News of Athens' community dialogues and cultural projects reached a regional education conference where Brittany was invited to speak. Standing before a crowd of educators, policymakers, and activists, she shared the story of their journey, of conflict and courage, setbacks and breakthroughs. Brittany's words carried the weight of lived experience and the urgency of real change, resonating deeply with the audience. Her speech was met with standing ovations and offers of collaboration, signaling that Athens was becoming a model for community-led reconciliation. Back in Athens, Maya was busy coordinating new initiatives inspired by this growing recognition. She worked with local leaders to establish a youth council, giving students a formal platform to voice their concerns and ideas. The council's first project was to develop peer-led workshops on empathy and conflict resolution, training students to become ambassadors of peace within their schools and neighborhoods. The enthusiasm and creativity of the youth breathed new life into the movement, promising sustainability beyond any single generation. The ripple effect extended into local government as well. The city council, once hesitant, now embraced the community's call for inclusivity and invested in programs that supported minority-owned businesses, expanded mental health services, and enhanced cultural education in schools. Grants were secured to fund art and music festivals celebrating the diversity of Athens, turning the town into a vibrant hub of multicultural expression. These changes did not go unnoticed by residents, many of whom expressed newfound pride in their evolving community. However, growth and attention also brought resistance. Some factions, feeling marginalized or threatened by the rapid changes, organized protests and voiced opposition through local media. These groups argued that the focus on diversity and inclusion came at the expense of tradition and social cohesion. The tension reignited old debates, forcing community leaders to navigate a delicate balance between progress and unity. Maya and Brittany found themselves mediating heated discussions, striving to maintain dialogue while addressing fears honestly. Amid these challenges, Maya discovered the personal cost of being at the forefront of change. The relentless pace and emotional intensity took a toll on her mental and physical health. Sleepless nights became frequent as she juggled school, activism, and family responsibilities. Doubt occasionally clouded her confidence, and moments of isolation tested her resolve. Yet support from Brittany, her parents, and close friends provided a lifeline. Their encouragement reminded her that leadership was not about perfection, but persistence. In the midst of this, a particularly poignant moment occurred during a community storytelling event. Residents from different backgrounds gathered to share their experiences, hopes, and struggles. Maya listened as elders recounted memories of hardship and resilience, while young people spoke about dreams of a more inclusive future. The stories wove a rich tapestry of identity and connection, revealing shared humanity beneath surface differences. The event ended with a collective vow to continue building bridges, reinforcing the community's commitment. Simultaneously, the Youth Council launched a campaign to address mental health stigma. Recognizing that many students suffered in silence, they partnered with local health providers to create safe spaces and accessible resources. The campaign included workshops, peer counseling, and awareness drives, helping to normalize conversations about emotional well-being. This initiative resonated deeply, offering tangible support to those struggling and further uniting the community around common challenges. The ripple effect extended beyond Athens' borders. Neighboring towns invited Maya and Brittany to speak and consult on their own community-building efforts. Regional networks formed, creating spaces for sharing best practices and mutual support. State legislators took notice, proposing policies that promoted equity and inclusion statewide. The movement in Athens became a beacon of hope, illustrating how grassroots action could influence systemic change. Despite these advances, Maya remained grounded, aware that the journey was far from over. The community still faced entrenched inequalities and pockets of resistance. Progress was uneven, and setbacks were inevitable. Yet the growing solidarity and shared vision gave her hope. She believed that change was possible not through grand gestures alone, but through sustained commitment and the daily work of listening, learning, and acting together. In quieter moments, Maya reflected on how far they had come since the early days of fear and division. The transformation was not just external but internal. Within herself, her friends, and the wider community, the experience had deepened her understanding of justice, empathy, and the power of collective action. It had also revealed the complexities of human nature, the capacity for both harm and healing. As the chapter closed, Athens stood at a crossroads, embodying the potential and the challenges of social change. The ripple effect was still spreading, touching lives and reshaping futures. Maya, Brittany, and their community knew that their work was part of a larger story, one that required courage, patience, and unwavering belief in the possibility of a better world. And so they moved forward, carrying the lessons of the past and the hope of tomorrow, ready to face whatever came next with open hearts and determined spirits. The progress Athens had made was undeniable. The community had experienced transformation, but as the saying went, every new chapter brings its own challenges. In the wake of growing recognition and expanding initiatives, Athens now found itself at a critical crossroads. This moment demanded more than passion and goodwill. It required strategic thinking, resilience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Maya, now a recognized leader among her peers and the wider community, felt the weight of this reality more acutely than ever. The idealism that had fueled her early efforts was still alive, but so was the growing awareness of the complexities embedded in the work. Change was no longer a distant hope. It was a pressing responsibility. The stakes had risen and the path forward was less clear. In the weeks leading up to this turning point, Maya convened a series of meetings with the youth council and community, leaders to evaluate their progress and plan next steps. The conversations were honest and sometimes difficult. Some members expressed frustration over lingering inequalities that seemed resistant to change. Others worried about burnout and whether the movement could sustain itself over the long haul. These discussions highlighted a key realization. While grassroots activism could spark transformation, structural change required engagement with established institutions. This meant building bridges with local government, schools, law enforcement, and businesses in ways that were often uncomfortable and complex. Trust had to be earned, and sometimes long-held suspicions needed to be addressed openly. Brittany, ever the pragmatic strategist, took on the role of liaison, attending city council meetings and advocating for policies that aligned with the community's vision. She understood that tangible resources, funding for programs, equitable hiring practices, and supportive legislation were critical to sustaining momentum. Her efforts often involved navigating bureaucratic hurdles and confronting resistance from officials wary of rapid change. Meanwhile, Maya focused on strengthening the Youth Council's internal capacity. They worked to develop leadership skills, ensuring that emerging voices were prepared to step up and carry the mission forward. Workshops on conflict resolution, public speaking, and project management became regular offerings, building confidence and competence. Maya believed that empowering young people was the key to lasting impact. At home, Maya's parents noticed the toll the work was taking on her. Late nights, constant meetings, and emotional labor left her drained. They urged her to find balance, reminding her that self-care was not a luxury, but a necessity. Maya struggled with this advice, feeling a sense of urgency that often overrode her own needs. Yet slowly she began to carve out time for rest and reflection, realizing that sustainable leadership required resilience. One pivotal moment arrived when the Youth Council organized a community forum to address lingering tensions and build consensus on future priorities. The event drew a diverse crowd: residents, activists, business owners, and officials, all eager to contribute. The forum was structured to encourage open dialogue, with breakout sessions and facilitated discussions designed to surface concerns and foster empathy. During the forum, stories were shared that revealed deep wounds and complex histories. Some participants voiced skepticism about the possibility of real change, citing past disappointments and broken promises. Others expressed hope and a renewed commitment to collective action. Maya listened carefully, feeling both the weight of responsibility and the power of shared experience. The forum concluded with the development of a community action plan, a roadmap that outlined clear goals, timelines, and roles. This plan included expanding mental health services, launching economic development programs targeted at marginalized groups, and creating cultural exchange initiatives to bridge divides. The process itself became a healing act, reinforcing bonds and cultivating a sense of ownership. As Athens embraced this new phase, challenges persisted. A vocal minority continued to resist, organizing protests and lobbying against certain policies. Social media became a battleground for competing narratives, with misinformation and fear-mongering threatening to undermine progress. The Youth Council responded by launching a media literacy campaign, equipping residents with tools to critically evaluate information and engage constructively online. On a personal level, Maya confronted moments of doubt. The pressures of leadership and the complexity of systemic change sometimes made her question whether their efforts could truly make a difference. In these times, she found solace in the stories of resilience she had encountered, the individuals and families who had faced adversity but continued to hope and strive. One evening, after a particularly intense day, Maya sat with Brittany at their favorite cafe. They reflected on the journey, from the initial conflicts that had sparked their activism to the community-wide transformation underway. Brittany reminded Maya that meaningful change was a marathon, not a sprint. They both acknowledged that setbacks were inevitable, but that each step forward was a victory in itself. As the chapter closed, Athens stood poised at the threshold of new beginnings. The path ahead remained uncertain and challenging, but the community had demonstrated remarkable strength and solidarity. Maya and her peers were ready to embrace the future with a blend of hope, pragmatism, and unwavering commitment. Their journey was far from over, but the foundations they had laid promised a more just and inclusive tomorrow. The momentum Athens had gained was palpable, but beneath the surface, tension brewed. The community was evolving rapidly, and with growth came new challenges that tested the resolve of even the most dedicated activists. It was during this time that Maya faced a pivotal moment, one that would shape not only her leadership, but the future of the entire movement. The early morning light filtered through the windows of the community center, casting a warm glow on the worn tables and posters that adorned the walls. Maya sat quietly, reviewing notes for an upcoming meeting with city officials. The room was empty except for her and a few volunteers preparing for the day's events. Despite the calm atmosphere, a storm of emotions churned within her. She knew the meeting would be difficult. City leaders were wary and slow to commit resources, and past attempts at collaboration had often ended in frustration. As she organized her thoughts, Brittany entered with a determined look. "We've got to be ready," she said, dropping a stack of documents on the table. "This meeting could make or break the next phase. If we don't secure their support, a lot of our plans could stall." Maya nodded, feeling the pressure weigh heavily on her shoulders. The stakes had never been higher. The Youth Council had drafted a comprehensive proposal outlining community needs and proposed solutions, but convincing officials to take action required more than good ideas. It required persistence, strategic alliances, and sometimes compromise. The meeting began with the usual formalities, but the atmosphere quickly grew tense. City council members listened with polite skepticism as Maya presented the proposal, detailing programs for mental health, economic development, and cultural inclusion. Some officials expressed concern over budget constraints and questioned the feasibility of the initiatives. One council member, a stern-faced man named Randall, was particularly vocal. "These are ambitious goals," he said sharply. "But where's the guarantee that the community will cooperate? Past efforts have failed because of lack of follow-through." Maya took a deep breath and met his gaze steadily. "This time is different," she replied. "We've built trust through sustained engagement. The Youth Council represents the voices of those most affected, and we have a clear plan with measurable outcomes. We're ready to work with you to ensure success." The discussion continued for hours, with moments of agreement and sharp disagreements. Maya felt her resolve tested as doubts crept in, but she pushed forward, drawing strength from the shared commitment of her team and the community's unwavering support. After the meeting, Maya and Brittany regrouped outside the city hall. The evening air was cool and heavy with anticipation. "What do you think?" Maya asked. Brittany paused, considering. "It's a start. They're not sold yet, but at least we've got their attention. Now we have to keep the pressure on and demonstrate that the community stands united." Over the next few weeks, the Youth Council launched a campaign to rally public support. They organized town halls, created informational flyers, and engaged local media to highlight the importance of the initiatives. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with residents expressing enthusiasm and sharing their own stories of struggle and hope. One afternoon, during a community gathering at the park, Maya listened as residents spoke passionately about their experiences. A single mother described the challenges of finding affordable childcare and jobs that paid a living wage. A veteran shared his battle with PTSD and the lack of adequate support services. These stories fueled Maya's determination, reminding her why the work mattered so deeply. Yet, even as support grew, opposition did not fade. Some community members feared change, worried about losing traditions or being overshadowed by new voices. A vocal group staged protests, accusing the Youth Council of pushing an agenda that didn't represent everyone. Social media platforms became battlegrounds for heated debates, misinformation spreading quickly. Maya recognized that these divisions were part of the complex reality they faced. To heal the fractures, she advocated for dialogue and inclusion. The Youth Council hosted listening sessions, inviting dissenters to share their concerns and be part of the conversation. These sessions were challenging but essential, revealing common ground and building bridges where there had been walls. Amidst the turbulence, Maya's personal life also faced strain. The demands of leadership left little time for family or self-care. Her parents expressed concern, urging her to slow down, but she struggled to find balance. One night, after a particularly draining day, Maya sat alone in her room, questioning whether she was strong enough to carry the weight of so many hopes. It was in this quiet moment that a message from an unexpected source arrived. An older community leader, Mr. Johnson, known for his wisdom and steady presence, reached out with words of encouragement. He reminded Maya of the importance of perseverance and the impact she was making. His support rekindled her spirit, providing the reassurance she desperately needed. The turning point came when the City Council announced a tentative agreement to fund key components of the Youth Council's proposal. This breakthrough was the result of months of advocacy, coalition building, and relentless effort. While not all demands were met, the commitment represented a significant victory. Celebrations were tempered with caution, recognizing the work ahead. Implementing the programs required careful planning, ongoing evaluation, and sustained collaboration. Maya understood that success would depend on maintaining community engagement and holding officials accountable. As Chapter 13 closed, Maya stood at the window of the community center, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The journey had been arduous, filled with setbacks and triumphs alike. Yet, in that moment, she felt a profound sense of hope and purpose. The movement was no longer just a dream. It was becoming reality, and with it the promise of a brighter future for Athens. The months following the City Council's tentative agreement were marked by a mix of cautious optimism and relentless work. Maya and the Youth Council understood that winning approval was only the first step in a much longer battle. Implementation would be the true test of their movement's strength and resilience. The community center became a hive of activity. Volunteers poured in with enthusiasm, eager to help translate plans into tangible results. Workshops were organized to train residents in leadership, advocacy, and project management. New partnerships formed with local non-profits and businesses, each bringing resources and expertise that bolstered the initiative. Despite the progress, Maya felt the strain of balancing leadership responsibilities with personal life. Sleep was often sacrificed, and moments of quiet reflection became rare. But her conviction never wavered. Every phone call from a grateful resident, every successful event reaffirmed her purpose. One evening, as Maya sat late in the center's small office, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from a journalist who had been covering the movement's progress closely. "I have some information you might want to see," the message read, linking to an article exposing a series of underhanded tactics by local political opponents aiming to derail the Youth Council's work. The article detailed attempts to spread misinformation, stir community division, and even sabotage funding applications. It was a reminder that the forces resisting change were powerful and well organized. The revelations shocked Maya, but also steeled her resolve. Transparency and truth would be their weapons. The Youth Council quickly mobilized to counter the misinformation. They launched a campaign focused on facts and community voices, sharing real stories of impact and progress. Social media became a battleground where narratives clashed, but the Council's authenticity resonated with many, gradually reclaiming trust. Amid these external challenges, internal disagreements surfaced. Some council members argued about strategy, debating how aggressively to confront opponents versus seeking compromise. Tensions threatened to fracture the group, just as unity was most crucial. Maya stepped up, facilitating difficult conversations with patience and empathy. She reminded the council of their shared vision and the community they served. Through honest dialogue, differences were aired and common ground rediscovered. The process strengthened their bond and clarified priorities. Meanwhile, the first programs began rolling out. A mental health support group launched at the community center, staffed by trained volunteers and professionals. Employment workshops offered resume help and interview coaching, connecting job seekers to local opportunities. Cultural events celebrated the neighborhood's diversity, fostering pride and understanding. Residents noticed the changes and expressed cautious hope. Anecdotes of individuals helped and lives improved spread quietly but meaningfully. For many, the movement was no longer an abstract idea, but a living force making a difference. Yet beneath the surface, systemic barriers persisted. Bureaucratic delays slowed funding disbursements. Some city officials remained resistant, obstructing progress subtly. The Youth Council learned that advocacy required constant vigilance and adaptability. Maya's leadership was tested further by personal challenges. Her mother's health declined, forcing Maya to juggle caregiving with activism. The emotional toll was heavy, but it also deepened her empathy and determination. She drew strength from family support and moments of reflection, reminding herself why the fight mattered. One afternoon, a turning point arrived. A community gathering was held to evaluate the programs and hear feedback. The turnout was higher than expected, with residents openly sharing their experiences and suggestions. Maya listened carefully, humbled by the trust and hopeful for the future. At the meeting's close, an elderly man named Henry, who had been a skeptic, stepped forward. His voice was steady but emotional. "I didn't believe this movement could change anything," he admitted. "But I see now that real people care. That gives me hope. Thank you." The room erupted in applause, a moment of collective validation. That energized everyone. Maya felt a profound sense of accomplishment, tempered by the knowledge that much work remained. As Chapter 14 drew to a close, Maya looked out at the diverse crowd gathered at the community center. The journey had been long and fraught with obstacles, but the spirit of Athens was alive and growing stronger. The unseen forces working against them had been exposed, yet the movement endured, fueled by resilience, truth, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The day the Youth Council had long anticipated finally arrived. After months of struggle, setbacks, and countless hours of dedication, the City Council convened to vote on the comprehensive proposal for the Community Revitalization Initiative. Maya stood at the front of the packed room, feeling the weight of the moment pressing on her shoulders. The faces in the crowd reflected a mosaic of hope, skepticism, and determination, a reminder of the diverse interests intertwined with the movement. The meeting opened with a series of presentations from various city officials and stakeholders. Arguments both for and against the initiative were laid bare. Opponents emphasized budget concerns and potential disruptions, while supporters underscored the long-term benefits for education, health, and economic opportunities. Maya's heart pounded as she listened, knowing how much depended on the council's decision. When it was her turn to speak, Maya stepped up with quiet confidence. She recounted the journey the Youth Council had embarked on, the obstacles overcome, and the community's growing support. She spoke of the real lives impacted, of neighbors who had found new hope and opportunities. Her words were earnest, clear, and resolute, cutting through the noise with a sincerity that resonated deeply. The room fell silent as the council began their deliberations. Hours stretched on, each vote and statement carrying significant weight. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the mayor called for a vote. One by one, council members raised their hands. The tension was palpable. When the final tally was announced, a wave of relief and joy swept through the room. The proposal had passed. Cheers erupted among the community members. Tears filled Maya's eyes as she realized that this victory was more than a policy win. It was a testament to the power of collective action and perseverance. But even amid celebration, she knew this was just the beginning. Implementation would require vigilance, adaptability, and continued community engagement. The Youth Council committed to transparency and accountability, promising regular updates and opportunities for public input. They recognized that sustaining momentum was crucial to turning promises into reality. In the weeks that followed, the pace accelerated. Construction began on new facilities, job training programs launched, and partnerships expanded. The community's involvement grew stronger, with residents taking ownership of the changes shaping their neighborhood. Success stories multiplied. Young people found meaningful employment, families accessed healthcare services, and schools reported improved attendance and performance. Maya's leadership evolved as well. She learned to delegate, trusting others to share responsibility and to navigate the complexities of working within the city's bureaucratic systems. Her relationship with the community deepened, rooted in mutual respect and shared goals. Yet, challenges remained. Funding gaps occasionally threatened progress, political shifts introduced uncertainty, and not all residents were satisfied with the pace of change. Maya faced criticism and doubt, but met them with resilience and openness, always returning to the core mission. One evening, reflecting on the journey from the initial spark of an idea to the tangible transformations underway, Maya felt a profound sense of gratitude. The movement had awakened a collective voice that refused to be silenced. It had taught her the value of perseverance, empathy, and hope. As the chapter closed, Maya stood once more at the community center, surrounded by the vibrant life it now nurtured. Children played outside, elders shared stories, and neighbors greeted one another with renewed warmth. The future was still unfolding, but the foundation was strong. Together, they had turned a vision into a living reality, proof that change was possible when people dared to believe and act. The day of the disciplinary hearing arrived with a heavy, almost suffocating atmosphere that hung over the entire school, like a storm cloud waiting to burst. The auditorium was packed, an unusual sight on a regular school day, with students, teachers, parents, and administrators filling every seat. The buzz of whispered conversations and nervous shifting echoed off the walls as everyone awaited the formal hearing about the bullying incident that had stirred the entire community. Maya sat near Brittany, her hands folded tightly in her lap, heart pounding with anxiety and determination. She glanced around, seeing the tense faces of her classmates, some curious, others hostile. Among them was Wes, sitting smugly with his parents, flanked by a few loyal friends who looked more like bodyguards than teenagers. His mother's eyes occasionally met Maya's, cold and defiant. The principal, Mrs. Callahan, called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming. This hearing will address the bullying allegations involving students Brittany Moore and Maya Williams, and other students, including Wes Thompson. We want to ensure that every voice is heard and that the truth comes to light." The council consisted of several teachers, school counselors, a representative from the school board, and a few elected student representatives. The weight of authority in the room was undeniable. Maya was called to speak first. She stood, hands trembling slightly, but her voice clear and steady as she recounted the moments she had witnessed. She described the bullying Brittany had endured, the hateful words scrawled on lockers, the isolation and fear her friend had faced daily. Maya spoke not only for Brittany, but for herself, explaining the pressure and loneliness she had felt since stepping forward. She emphasized the importance of standing against injustice, even when it's difficult, and how silence often protects the powerful while harming the vulnerable. When she finished, a few supportive murmurs came from the crowd, but many faces remained unreadable, some even scornful. Brittany followed, her voice quieter but equally powerful as she shared her own experience. The fear of walking the halls, the pain of being targeted because of her skin color, and the courage it took to keep showing up every day despite everything. The hearing grew tense when it was Wes's turn. With a confident smirk, Wes denied all accusations. He framed himself as the victim of overblown rumors and an unfair witch hunt. His parents then took center stage. Wes's father, a prominent lawyer well known in Athens, spoke firmly, demanding. The school dismissed the charges against his son. "My son is a good kid who deserves fairness. This disciplinary action is unwarranted, and we expect the school to reconsider. You must understand the repercussions this will have on his future," he warned, his tone implying threats more than requests. The room fell silent, the power imbalance stark and palpable. The principal struggled to maintain control clearly, caught between the need for justice and the pressures of influential parents. Maya felt the sting of injustice firsthand as she watched the scene unfold. Her heart ached, but she also felt a growing resolve. This was bigger than just a school dispute. It was about standing up against a system that often protected the privileged at the expense of truth. The student representatives were asked for their input. Some spoke in favor of Maya and Brittany, emphasizing the importance of a safe and inclusive school environment. Others sided quietly with Wes, echoing his parents' calls for leniency, or simply avoiding taking a stand out of fear or apathy. Coach Redmond, who had silently observed until now, finally stood. His deep voice cut through the tension as he shared his perspective. "I've been here for many years. I've seen things like this happen time and again, and for a long time I was silent. I thought it wasn't my place to get involved, but I've realized that silence is complicity." He paused, looking directly at Maya and Brittany. "These two girls showed courage when many wouldn't. I stand with them." His words seemed to break the tension, bringing a wave of quiet support from some teachers and students. After hours of testimonies and heated exchanges, the council adjourned to deliberate. The waiting felt endless for everyone involved. When the decision was finally announced a few days later, Wes was suspended for 2 weeks. The parents' influence could not erase the evidence or the collective voices demanding justice. Logan, Wes's closest friend, had distanced himself from the group, his own conscience no longer allowing him to participate in the bullying. Maya and Brittany felt a cautious victory. The road ahead would still be difficult, but this moment marked a turning point. The disciplinary council had shown that change was possible, even in a place weighed down by old prejudices and power dynamics. As they left the auditorium, Maya glanced at Brittany and whispered, "We're not alone anymore." Brittany smiled, eyes shining. "No, we're not." The days following the disciplinary hearing were charged with a newfound energy around the school. For the first time in months, there was a sense of hope mingled with the usual nervous tension. Maya and Brittany found themselves at the center of a growing movement, a wave of students from diverse backgrounds coming forward to speak out, stand up and support one another. It started small. A few whispered conversations in the hallways, a handful of supportive comments on social media, then quiet gestures of solidarity. A nod in passing, a pat on the back, a shared lunch table. But the ripple soon grew into a steady current. Students, from every corner of the school, representing every race, religion, and identity, began to organize meetings. They wanted to create a safe space where stories could be shared and no one would have to suffer in silence again. Maya, usually quiet and reserved, found herself swept up in the movement. She was no longer just a witness to the bullying. She was becoming a leader. The courage she had summoned to speak at the council hearing inspired others. Brittany too embraced this role, determined to turn her pain into purpose. One afternoon, as the school bell rang, a crowd gathered outside the auditorium, holding signs that read, "Stop the hate, unity in diversity," and "We are one." The group was a mosaic of students, African American, Latino, Asian, Native American, white, and mixed race, all standing shoulder to shoulder. They spoke out against bullying, racism, and discrimination, demanding respect and justice. Coach Redmond was there too, standing tall beside the students. His presence sent a powerful message. For years, many had known him as the stoic coach who rarely spoke about anything beyond sports, but now his voice was loud and clear. He shared stories of the moments he had ignored bullying, how his silence had contributed to the pain of many students over the years. He confessed that it was easier to look the other way, to avoid confrontation. But now he understood that his role was bigger, to protect, to stand up, and to foster a culture of kindness and respect. The students listened, inspired not just by his words, but by his humility. The assembly that day became more than just a protest. It was a declaration of a new era in the school. The administration, seeing the strength of this collective voice, committed to new policies against bullying and discrimination. Anti-bullying workshops were scheduled, student-led diversity clubs gained funding, and counselors made themselves more available to those struggling. At the heart of it all were Maya and Brittany, their friendship deepened by shared hardship and shared hope. Together, They were the faces of change, young women who refused to be silenced or broken. Outside of school, Maya noticed changes in how she was treated by some classmates who had once ignored or avoided her. Small gestures of respect and kindness began to replace looks of indifference. Brittany felt the same. Though the wounds of the past remained, the future suddenly seemed a little brighter. One afternoon, Maya sat with her mother, recounting the whirlwind of events. Her mother listened quietly, pride shining in her eyes. "You've grown into such a strong young woman," she said softly. "It takes real courage to stand up like that." Maya nodded, feeling a swell of emotion. The road ahead was still, long and uncertain, but she finally understood that she didn't have to walk it alone. Together with Brittany and the others, they were creating something new, a community bound by respect, courage, and hope. That night, Maya wrote in her journal, "We may be different in many ways, but when we stand together, our voices become one. This is just the beginning." The quiet after the storm was a different kind of challenge. Maya felt a new weight on her shoulders, not just the pressure of being a symbol, but the unresolved pain beneath the surface. It was in the silence between her and her mother, where the words they both wanted to say hung fragile and heavy. One evening, Maya sat at the kitchen table, her notebook open, but her pen still. Her mother entered the room, carrying 2 mugs of tea, setting one gently beside her daughter. They sat together, the warm glow of the lamp casting soft shadows on the walls. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Maya's mother finally broke the silence, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and hope. "I know I haven't always been the mother you needed. I was scared, so scared of losing you, of watching you suffer the same things I did." Maya looked up, surprised. She had never seen her mother so vulnerable, so real. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought you didn't care, or maybe that you blamed me." Her mother shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "Never. That I was afraid because I've lost so much before. Friends, family, pieces of myself. I wanted to protect you, but sometimes I thought protecting meant staying silent." Maya reached across the table and took her mother's hand. "You don't have to be scared anymore. I'm here. We're here. Together. And I'm proud of you for being honest with me." The conversation opened a floodgate. They talked for hours about the past, the fears, the regrets, the times they had both felt alone. Maya's mother shared stories from her own youth, stories of hardship and resilience Maya had never heard before. It was a healing, a mending of threads that had frayed over time. Maya realized that the wounds they both carried weren't just about what had happened at school or the bullying. They were about loss, about the unspoken words and missed chances that shaped their lives. But now, finally, they were speaking those words aloud. In the days that followed, Maya felt a quiet strength growing inside her. She began to understand that healing wasn't about forgetting the pain, but about accepting it and letting it shape her into someone stronger and more compassionate. Her mother's support became a steady anchor. No longer was Maya facing her battles alone. They found moments to laugh again, to share stories and to dream about the future. Maya started to write more, not just for school, but for herself. Poems and letters she never intended to send, capturing the complexity of her feelings. Writing became her refuge, a way to make sense of the chaos and the hope intertwined in her life. At school, she noticed subtle changes too. Some students approached her with a new respect, others with quiet apologies. Brittany remained her constant, a fierce friend who reminded her daily that they were stronger together. But even as the school community began to heal, Maya knew there were still battles ahead. Forgiveness was not easy, and trust needed to be rebuilt slowly. One afternoon, after a group meeting for the anti-bullying club, Maya sat alone on the bleachers, watching the sunset bleed orange across the sky. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Brittany. "You're not alone, we're going to change this school one step at a time." Maya smiled, typing back quickly. One step at a time. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Maya felt ready. With her mother's love and Brittany's friendship, she could face whatever came next. The silence between them was no longer a barrier, but a bridge, connecting past wounds to future hope. In that moment, under the fading light, Maya understood that the hardest words were often the most important ones to say. And sometimes those words were exactly what it took to heal a broken heart. The school halls felt different after the dust had settled. The air was thick with whispers, some full of sympathy, others laced with caution. Maya and Brittany walked, side by side, their footsteps echoing determination through the corridors that had once seemed so hostile. The battle wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the tides were slowly turning. Wes had been suspended. The decision was met with mixed reactions. Some parents nodded in approval, relieved that justice was being served. Others, especially those connected to Wes, argued it was too harsh. His mother had made it clear at the East Creek disciplinary hearing, demanding leniency because her son was the son of a lawyer. The phrase hung in the air, a reminder that power and privilege still cast long shadows even in the face of wrongdoing. Logan, once part of Wes's circle, had taken a step back. The once confident boy seemed smaller, quieter. He approached Brittany, one afternoon by her locker, face flushed with embarrassment and regret. "I'm sorry," he said simply. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was real. Brittany looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you," she replied. "But words aren't enough. Actions have to change." Brittany's stance was clear. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It was about moving forward with eyes wide open, learning from the pain without letting bitterness consume her. She wanted to heal, but she also wanted to fight for change so that no one else would suffer as they had. The anti-bullying club gained momentum. Students from all backgrounds joined in, united by a shared commitment to stand up against cruelty and silence. Their voices echoed through school assemblies, their messages plastered on bulletin boards and social media feeds. Maya and Brittany were at the forefront, not just as survivors, but as leaders inspiring others to speak up. Teachers who had once turned a blind eye began to listen. Coach Redmond's words during the disciplinary meeting had left a mark. His admission of past silence and his vow to be a better ally gave students hope that change was possible, not just in policy, but in culture. Still, every day brought challenges. There were stares in the hallways, whispers that tried to undermine their courage, moments when doubt crept in. But Maya and Brittany found strength in each other and in the growing community that refused to let fear win. Maya's mother became a vocal supporter, attending meetings and sharing her story. The bond between mother and daughter deepened, rooted in mutual respect and understanding. The scars they carried didn't define them, their resilience did. One afternoon, as Maya prepared for a school forum on inclusivity, she reflected on how far they had come. This wasn't just about punishment or apologies. It was about creating a space where every student felt seen, heard, and safe. She remembered the words Brittany had said months ago. "The forgiveness doesn't mean forget." Those words became a mantra, a guiding light. They chose to remember, to honor their experiences, but not to be prisoners of the past. Their journey was a testament to the power of courage and community. Reconciliation was complicated and imperfect, but it was possible and necessary. As Maya stepped onto the stage to address the packed auditorium, she felt a quiet confidence. Her voice carried the stories of many, a beacon of hope for those still searching for theirs. The future wasn't free from pain or struggle, but it was theirs to shape. And with every word she spoke, Maya knew they were not just healing, they were transforming. The gymnasium was packed to the brim, the buzz of excitement filling the air as families, friends, and faculty gathered to celebrate the graduating class. Maya stood behind the podium, the spotlight warm against her skin, but her heart pounded with a mix of nerves and pride. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight and honor of the moment settle on her shoulders. Today was more than just a graduation ceremony. For Maya, it was the culmination of a journey marked by pain, courage, and transformation. She looked out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some new, and recognized the many stories woven together in that room. Stories of struggle, resilience, hope. Maya's speech began quietly, her voice steady but soft as she acknowledged the challenges her class had faced. "We are the voices of those who have been overlooked, dismissed, and forgotten," she said. "We are the ones who have been told to stay silent, to blend in, to just get by. But we chose not to be invisible." As she spoke, memories flashed through her mind. The bullying, the moments of fear, the times she wanted to give up. But also the friendships forged in fire, the teachers who stood beside her, the community that rose up to defend what was right. Her words echoed through the room, stirring a deep silence. Maya spoke not just for herself and Brittany, but for every student who had ever felt powerless. She spoke of the strength in unity, the importance of standing together despite differences. Her speech carried a message that resonated far beyond the walls of their school. "We are the change we've been waiting for," Maya continued. "Our future isn't written by the mistakes of the past, but by the courage we show today. We will carry the lessons of our struggles as we step forward, stronger and more determined." The crowd erupted into applause, the sound swelling like a wave of hope and promise. Maya's eyes scanned the faces before her, parents wiping away tears, teachers nodding in approval, fellow students smiling with pride. For the first time, she truly felt seen. After the ceremony, the celebration spilled outside under the warm sun. Maya's mother hugged her tightly, whispering how proud she was. Brittany caught her hand, their smiles bright with the knowledge that they had fought their way through darkness and emerged into light. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges yet to come, but they faced it armed with the lessons of resilience and compassion. Maya knew the road wouldn't always be easy, but she was ready to walk it with her head held high. That day marked not just the end of high school, but the beginning of a future they would shape together. A future where no one would be silenced, where every voice mattered, and where the pain of yesterday became the foundation for a brighter tomorrow. As the sun set over the horizon, Maya looked forward with hope. This was their moment, the first day of the future.